In the quiet forest near her grandmother's house in Ikare, 23-year-old Adeabi knelt among berry bushes. Her braids, beaded with bright colors, gleamed under the morning sun as she plucked a juicy berry. Suddenly, her soft voice whispered, "Please don't eat me." Startled, Adeabi froze. On a nearby branch sat a tiny bluebird, its feathers glowing like sapphire. Its dark eyes met hers, and it spoke again, "I can talk, and so can you, if you listen." Adeabi blinked, unsure if she was dreaming. But the bird nodded wisely. "Promise to keep this secret," it said, "and I'll teach you our language." Curious and brave, Adeabi whispered, "I promise." With that, the bird fluttered closer, marking the start of something extraordinary. In the small village of Ikare, settled between beautiful green hills and a sparkling river, lived a curious girl named Adeabi. Adeabi was 23 years old, with bright eyes that sparkled like the morning dew on leaves. She loved exploring the forest behind her grandmother's house, where she often went to play. One sunny afternoon, while picking wild berries near the edge of the forest, something strange happened. As Adeabi bent down to pluck a juicy berry, she heard a faint whisper coming from the bushes. "Please don't eat me," it said. Startled, Adeabi dropped the basket she was holding. The sound seemed to come from a little bird perched on a branch above her. It had feathers as blue as the sky and eyes as sharp as glass. "Did you just talk?" Adeabi asked, pointing at the bird. "Yes," chirped the bird. "And if you promise not to tell anyone, I'll teach you how to understand us animals." Adeabi blinked in disbelief but nodded eagerly. From that day forward, she could hear everything animals said, whether they were birds, squirrels, or even fish swimming in the river. But she kept her new gift a secret because the bird warned her that some people might not believe her or worse, try to use her for their own gain. Little did Adeabi know, this gift would lead her into adventures beyond her wildest dreams. The next morning, Adeabi woke up early and ran straight to the river by her grandmother's farm. She knelt by its banks and cupped her hands in the cool water. Suddenly, she heard a soft voice humming under the surface. "Good morning, child," the river whispered. Adeabi nearly fell backward in surprise. "You can talk too." The river chuckled, sending ripples across its surface. "Of course. All living things have voices if you listen closely enough." Curious, Adeabi asked, "Why do you sing every morning?" "I sing to wake the creatures who live within me, the frogs, turtles, and fish," replied the river. "Each song gives them strength for the day ahead." As the sun rose higher, Adeabi stayed by the riverbank, listening to its stories about the villagers who once relied on it for life. She learned about droughts long past and floods that swept away homes. By the time her grandmother called her home for breakfast, Adeabi felt like she'd made a new friend. Back at her grandmother's compound, Adeabi helped feed the goats tied to a wooden post. One of the goats, an old one with patchy fur, bleated loudly as soon as it saw her. Finally, "Someone who understands me," the goat exclaimed. Adeabi froze mid-step. You can talk." The goat huffed impatiently. "Well, obviously. Don't stare at me like I'm crazy. Now give me some fresh grass before I starve." Laughing softly, Adeabi fetched a handful of green leaves and handed them over. "What's your name?" she asked. "Ngozi," the goat replied, munching happily. "I used to be part of a big herd, but now I live here. Life isn't bad, except these humans never seem to hear what we are saying." Adeabi promised Ngozi she'd visit often and bring extra treats. As she walked back inside, she wondered how many other animals around her were waiting to share their thoughts. But there was still so much more to learn. Back at her grandmother's compound, Adeabi helped feed the goats tied to a wooden post. One of the goats, an old one with patchy fur, bleated loudly as soon as it saw her. Finally, "Someone who understands me," the goat exclaimed. Adeabi froze mid-step. You can talk." The goat huffed impatiently. "Well, obviously. Don't stare at me like I'm crazy. Now give me some fresh grass before I starve." Laughing softly, Adeabi fetched a handful of green leaves and handed them over. "What's your name?" she asked. "Ngozi," the goat replied, munching happily. "I used to be part of a big herd, but now I live here. Life isn't bad, except these humans never seem to hear what we are saying." Adeabi promised Ngozi she'd visit often and bring extra treats. As she walked back inside, she wondered how many other animals around her were waiting to share their thoughts. That evening, after everyone else had gone to bed, Adeabi snuck out of her room with a lantern. She wanted to find out more about her newfound ability. Deep in the forest, she found a clearing where several animals had gathered: a fox, a snake, 2 monkeys, and even the bluebird from before. "You came," the bluebird said, flapping its wings excitedly. "We've been waiting." "What's going on?" Adeabi asked, sitting cross-legged on the ground. "We need your help," explained the fox, his golden eyes gleaming in the moonlight. "There's trouble brewing in the forest, and only someone who speaks our language can stop it." Before Adeabi could ask anything else, the snake hissed sharply. "Sech. Someone's coming." They all scattered into the shadows, leaving Adeabi alone in the dark. Her heart raced as she listened for footsteps. Was someone following her? A twig snapped nearby, making Adeabi jump. Out of the darkness emerged a tall man dressed in traditional Agba robes. His face was kind, but his gaze held a hint of mystery. "Who are you?" Adeabi asked bravely. "My name is Chief Obianuju," he replied. "I've been watching you, child. You possess a rare gift, one that could either save our land or bring chaos." Adeabi frowned. "Save it from what?" Chief Obianuju leaned closer. "From those who wish to destroy the balance between humans and nature. But first, you must prove yourself worthy." With that, he disappeared into the night, leaving Adeabi with more questions than answers. The next day, Adeabi returned to the clearing, hoping to speak with the animals again. This time, the air shimmered strangely when she arrived. Before her stood 3 glowing figures, the spirits of the forest. "We are the guardians of this land," one spirit said, its voice echoing like wind through trees. "To prove yourself, you must pass 3 trials." The second spirit added, "If you succeed, you will unlock the full power of your gift. If you fail..." "It won't matter," Adeabi interrupted, standing tall. "I'll do whatever it takes to protect my home." The spirit smiled knowingly. "Then let the first trial begin." Suddenly, the ground beneath her feet began to tremble. Adeabi found herself standing at the edge of a deep ravine. On the other side lay a golden key floating midair. "Retrieve the key," instructed the first spirit. "But how am I supposed to get across?" Adeabi asked nervously. A rope bridge materialized before her, swaying dangerously in the breeze. Adeabi took a deep breath and stepped onto it. Halfway across, the bridge shook violently, causing her to lose her balance. "Don't look down," shouted the bluebird, flying beside her. With trembling hands, Adeabi gripped the ropes tightly and crawled the rest of the way. When she finally reached the key, she felt a rush of pride. "Congratulations," said the spirit. "Now prepare for the second trial." For her second trial, Adeabi faced a series of riddles carved into stone tablets. Each answer revealed a piece of a map leading to a hidden treasure. "The treasure isn't gold or jewels," explained the second spirit. "It holds knowledge that will guide you on your journey." Adeabi thought hard, solving each riddle with clues from the animals she'd met. Finally, the last tablet lit up, revealing the location of the treasure, a cave deep within the mountains. "Go now," urged the spirit. "Time is running out." Inside the cave, Adeabi encountered eerie whispers and flickering lights. Shadows danced along the walls, taking shapes of fearsome creatures. "This is the final trial," announced the third spirit. "Face your greatest fear and emerge victorious." Adeabi closed her eyes, remembering all the lessons she'd learned. Slowly, the shadows faded, replaced by warm sunlight streaming through the cave entrance. "You've passed," said the spirit proudly. As Adeabi stepped outside the cave, she saw Chief Oluwatosin waiting for her. In his hand was a wooden staff engraved with symbols of animals and plants. "Take this," he said. "It represents your connection to the natural world. Use it wisely." Adeabi accepted the staff, feeling its weight settle in her hands. For the first time, she truly understood the responsibility that came with her gift. And though challenges lay ahead, she knew she wasn't alone. Her adventure was just beginning. Chief Oluwatosin led Adeabi back to the village where a crowd had gathered. Whispers rippled through the people as they saw the staff in her hands. Some looked curious, others skeptical. "Adeabi has been chosen by the spirits of the forest," Chief Oluwatosin announced. "She carries a gift that will help us protect our land." A murmur spread through the villagers. An elderly woman stepped forward. "What does this mean for us?" "It means we must work together," Adeabi replied confidently. "Humans and animals alike depend on each other. If we don't care for the forest, it won't survive, and neither will we." The villagers nodded slowly, beginning to understand the weight of her words. That night, under the light of a full moon, Adeabi met with the animals once more. The bluebird fluttered anxiously. "There's trouble brewing," it warned. "A group of loggers plans to cut down half the forest next week." Adeabi gasped. "We can't let that happen. We need a plan." The fox spoke up. "I've seen these humans before. They are greedy and only care about profit. But if we unite, maybe we can stop them." Adeabi agreed. "Let's gather everyone, animals, the villagers, and even the river, to stand against this threat." Over the next few days, Adeabi worked tirelessly. She visited every corner of Ekare, explaining the danger to anyone who would listen. Slowly, the villagers began to rally behind her. Men sharpened tools to block the loggers' path, the women prepared food for the resistance, and children helped spread the word. Meanwhile, the animals organized their own efforts. Birds flew far and wide to warn neighboring forests, while monkeys gathered fallen branches to create barriers. Even Ngozi, the talking goat, offered her advice. "Make sure the loggers see how much life depends on the forest," she suggested. Adeabi smiled at her furry friend. "You're right. This isn't just about saving trees, it's about protecting everything that lives here." Finally, the day arrived. A convoy of trucks rumbled toward the forest edge, loaded with chainsaws and axes. Adeabi stood at the forefront of the villagers, holding her staff high. Behind her, the animals waited silently, ready to act. When the lead logger stepped out of his truck, he sneered. "Move aside, girl. You don't want any trouble." "I'm not moving," Adeabi declared firmly. "This forest is our home. You won't destroy it without a fight." At her signal, chaos erupted. Birds swooped down, pecking at the loggers' helmets. Monkeys swung from tree branches, throwing rocks and sticks. The river surged forward, flooding the road and trapping the trucks in mud. The loggers panicked, trying to retreat. One shouted to call off your monsters. "They are not monsters, they are protectors," Adeabi yelled. "And they'll keep fighting until you leave." Faced with overwhelming opposition, the loggers finally gave up. Their leader signed a paper promising never to return. As the trucks drove away, cheers erupted among the villagers and animals alike. Adeabi collapsed onto the ground, exhausted but triumphant. Chief Oluwatosin placed a hand on her shoulder. "You've done well, child. Your courage has saved our home." From that day forward, the people of Ekare treated the forest with respect. They planted new trees, cleaned the riverbanks, and listened to the voices of nature. And Adeabi. She became known as the guardian of Ekare, a hero who spoke for those who couldn't speak for themselves. But her journey wasn't over yet. There were still mysteries to uncover, lands to explore, and lessons to learn. With her trusty staff by her side, Adeabi knew she was ready for whatever came next. And so, the girl who spoke to animals lived happily ever after, or at least, for now.